Let's rewrite a bucket full of bullets.
Let's rewrite it.
So we're back with another rewrite, and this time we are going to be looking way back at one of the first books we ever read for the show.
Yes, our originals hold a special place in our heart, I think. And, let's not forget about some of the famed books that we have done throughout our history, our beloved Bucketful of Bullets.
Yeah, and we thought it would be cool to do a rewrite on this one because we've been doing a lot of like fantasy or sci-fi books for the rewrite so far. And we thought it would be nice to kind of look at a story that is a little more grounded.
Well, we also did a sewage western, so let's not forget about that. So we're covering a lot of ground here, but I thought it's time maybe it's a little bit different, a little bit fresh, perhaps, and might challenge us a little bit too, because, Bucketful of Bullets was a crazy ride.
Yes. So we've got some rules for each other, as always, and now I thought of my rule instantly. I knew exactly when we picked Bucketful of Bullets what kind of story I wanted to hear Kim talk about. So my rule for you is that you have to feature the origin story of Dominick Long's iconic twin Thompson submachine guns, Bessie and Belle.
So you want me to write an origin story surrounding that?
Feature it.
That's it's got to be part of the backstory or a flashback, or you get it throughout. Okay.
Well, I'll leave that up to you. I chose that word very carefully, feature, because it doesn't have to be the whole story.
The whole story.
It doesn't need to be about that.
But we need to know. Yeah. We need to know.
I want you to.
We need answers.
Yeah, you can make it the center of the book, or you can just have it as part of the story. But I want to see how they became so iconic.
All right. Well, that's very interesting. It's quite good. Yeah. And leaves me a lot of space to interpret the story. So I'm very happy with that.
Okay.
Now, my rule for you. Now, I selected this one to begin with. And then I steered away from it slightly as, I was doing some back research, investigation on Bucketful of Bullets because it was such a long time ago.
Yeah.
Time brings all things to pass.
Yeah.
And then I was thinking about it, but I've gone back to my original rule. So Dominick Long, the G-Man, G-Long, as we used to call him, has to be in a romantic triangle with a Bessie and a Belle.
Oh, no.
Yes? Interpret that in whichever way you would like, but there has to be a romantic triangle of some kind.
Okay, so basically you just want me to rewrite the original story because that's what that was.
Yes, but with a little bit more flavor. And I did not necessarily say that they had to be guns. Just said Bessie and Belle.
Okay.
So maybe that's
all right. I like this rule,
It's up to you how you want to do that. The rest of the story, really, play around with it. Obviously, I think to some degree we should perhaps... Well, I'll see how it goes, but I think I will stay with the time period, so to speak.
I think I am leaning towards doing that as well. So when we come back, we're going to have two action-packed
nonsense books. Don't put the bar too high for us today because, look, the source material left a lot to be desired.
It's rather thin in the content department to begin with.
So. It always makes me feel confident, though, because, for us, the bar is very low.
Yes.
We do not have to write anything or come up with anything too well to beat the original story. It's very easy to do so.
All right. A bucket full of bullets.
Bucket full of bullets.
So we are back now after having finished our stories, and, well, I think it went pretty well for me. How'd it go for you?
Well, I wouldn't describe it as great. I would describe it as a phenomenal blast through an obvious story.
Okay.
And, firstly, the source material left a lot to be desired.
Yes.
But that's why we're here. We're the fixers.
Yeah, well, the story itself is, something that, it started off with a good idea, but it never really flourished. And that's what we're here to do, is to try and bring it to the elevation that it really deserves.
Yes. And, of course, when I go into these books, I always look at what is cool about the setting, what idea is trying to be pushed, and, what can I make out of it? How could I turn this into a better functioning version of its original self?
You really went rather methodical with it. So I just fired into it, and I just didn't stop until I got to the end. I just tried to keep all that stuff up here, up in the head. Let my fingers sort out the rest.
That's the way writing works. Your brain locks in, your fingers do the work.
Okay, well, So I get to go first this time since I went second last time.
Yes, and let's go.
So
just get it over with so that we can get to the real story.
Well, one of my favorite parts about the rewrite is asking, what did you think I was going to write based on your prompt?
Well, I assumed that you wouldn't take the rifles and keep them as rifles. I thought that you might turn them into something else, that they might be people or something like that. But now that I think about it, maybe you thought that. Maybe it's like a crisscross of, maybe you thought that I would think this. And so now I'm thinking that you actually did keep them as rifles and he just doesn't know which one to use. Should he take out the 30 mag, which is lighter and infinitely more practical? Or should he go with the drum, which could tear down an entire army's worth of soldiers if need be?
Well, I did end up going with them as people, I will say.
Okay, so it's switched back around. All right.
Yeah, I know I've taken
You've already subverted me.
The previous prompts I've, not taken very literally at all. I've actually done my best to worm my way around them. But this time, I really tried to challenge myself and give the story that I think a prompt like this really deserves. So, my story
deserves, in quotation marks.
My story is called A Bucketful of Bullets. Now, we start off with Dominick G-Man Long, an infamous detective with a lust for murder, a lust for women, and a lust for booze.
Okay, all right, I see it. Yeah, I'm there.
Dominick Long, one day, he gets a delivery, something sent to his office that he's not really expecting at his office doorstep, and it's a bucket full of bullets.
Bam. Now that is a metaphor.
Literally. He literally gets
to send a bucket full of bullets to someone's house, that's just like saying, this is going to come, I'm going to fire all of these bullets, or this amount of bullets towards you, or your...
Yeah, see, he's not really sure what to make of it. He looks at this and he says, is this a threat? Is it a gift, perhaps? Because the man needs bullets.
I mean, yeah, he's got those twin Thompsons to feed.
Yeah, perhaps someone just delivered him the best gift that that he could receive, really. Perhaps it's a suggestion of violence. But the world building I've done around this is actually that the department that he works for is financially crippled due to a lack of bullet supply.
Financially crippled? Yes. That doesn't make any sense, though, because they're either... They have a lack of strategic resources, i.e. bullets, or they are financially stricken.
They need to buy so many bullets because Dominick Long uses so many bullets.
That's the financial burden.
Yes, it's really...
I see.
And it's also, on the gangs themselves. They're in sort of a supply chain war over the manufacturing and distribution of bullets.
Who controls the bullets controls the streets.
Yes, and we're going to get into who those big players are in a second. Now... Dominick Long gets his detective fingers into the bucket and he starts scooping them out. He's a detective. He knows, this is a multi-step process.
The first thing a detective would do is get his fingerprints all over a box full of evidence, right?
Yeah.
That's the first thing he does.
And at the bottom of the bucket, he finds a note. Okay? He finds a note that says, "Your days are numbered, G-Long."
G-Long!
Yeah. And it's
Government
signed.
Long.
It's signed by the letter B. Okay. Now,
Bessie. That's Bessie.
Well,
Belle?
Now this is where it really confuses Long. He said, who could it be? The case begins. Now, because of the B, Dominick Long immediately suspects his ex-wife, who happens to be a gangster known as Belle, also known as the Vicious Dame.
The Vicious Dame.
Yes. This is the 1950s. You got to have a cool gangster name with your 1950s. Gangster. So she's Belle, the Vicious Dame.
That's like if I were called Kim, the Vicious Man.
Well, her reputation precedes her, really. Now, she's a hard criminal.
What crimes has she committed?
Well, she doesn't really care about the law, okay? She doesn't really care about money either.
Or she doesn't pay her taxes, or she kills people?
No, all she cares about is blood sport. Now, this is actually what initially attracted Long to her. That's, they're ex-lovers. But this is also actually what drove them apart. You see, because they could never really kill together. Long was always outshined by her craftiness with a firearm.
But she was never on the police force, right?
Well, actually, she was. She and him were on the police force together.
So she's an ex-cop.
Yeah, she's an ex-cop. Okay, and Dominick Long's main flaw is that while he loves to kill, he kind of can't. because he's always drunk. He's a poor shot, and that's why he needs so many bullets.
That's why he needs the drum mag.
Yeah, that's why
he's not a 30 mag guy. He needs at least 50 to hit his target.
Yeah, 50, 80, maybe even 100. I mean, the man literally carries a bucket shouldered around him with bullets in it, ready to go.
Well, that doesn't make any sense either, because in the time of need, you would need those to be loaded into magazines, right? Wait, you're gonna load them when you're at the front? When you're there, you're gonna start loading magazines?
Yeah.
It'd take you half an hour to load a fucking 100 drum.
Yeah, well, look, he's not the smartest guy, okay?
Now I know that he's got an ex-lover who's a criminal. He isn't intelligent.
But he is the most efficient detective on the police force.
How?
Because
people leave him notes.
Look, he gets the job done, okay?
Yeah, what job has he completed?
He kills a lot of criminals. He just starts spraying, and they just start dropping. And now Long picks up the bucket full of bullets, and he slings it over his shoulder. And loads up his twin Thompsons. He loads up on booze. And then he goes out to take down his ex-wife, Belle. Now, she is holed up in her den in the slum pits of Kansas City's criminal underworld. A lot of territory to cover between the precinct and her den. A lot of people to spread out. In a drunken madness, Long becomes a walking bullet storm. Somehow, the rage protects him. The rage of love and heartache.
The rage of love?
Yeah, the rage of love.
Tell me what sort of relationship they had. Was it a feisty, or was it a
passionate one, a hot shells?
Were they married?
They were, yeah. She's the ex-wife.
Yeah, she's the ex-wife. Yeah. Okay.
So they were married. They were on the force, but she just had a hunger for death that couldn't be satisfied by the rigidness of the police force. So
he had a hunger for booze, apparently.
Yeah, that's just dominated everything else, really.
I see.
Now he goes block by block, cutting through her forces, leaving no one alive.
Cutting people's legs out from under them.
Yeah, just blasting them right off. I mean, the street is just full of limbs at this point. Now, in the crossfire, Dominick Long takes a bullet, and he has to retreat for a little while. He finds a quiet spot to...
I imagine him, tipping whiskey on
he finds a quiet spot to fuel up. And that's when his heart truly starts to break. How could Belle do this to him? He starts to reflect on their,
what did
burnout.
She do?
Well, he reflects on how they were on the force together and how they used to kill together, but she always wanted more, The killing just wasn't enough.
But how is that, direct to him?
Well, see, he always took it personally that she was an efficient killer, and he was a drunken buffoon. He couldn't get the numbers that she had. So, this eventually drew him apart. Yeah, well, she just wanted to kill. So she went rogue. She became a gangster.
Brady, how much do you know of modern police work?
I know plenty. I know the crime and finances run on bullets. So, Long's reflection spurs his anger and pain further, and he returns to his cause. After killing dozens in his way, he finally makes it to where Belle is hiding out, and he confronts her there. And she says, "Dominick, it's been a long time."
I hate you.
It has, Belle. I've missed you. What brings you here? You don't know? And Dominick Long shows her the bucket, now almost empty. And she says, "Seems someone knows you well, better than I ever did." And he says, "This wasn't you? I'm afraid not. The bullet shortage has kept me out of work for some time." "Who runs the trade these days?" Dominick asks. And she says, "That wife of the dead mobster from way back, Scarlet Widow." And Dominick says, "Bessie." Oh, and she says, "You two have history." "Sure do. She and I have been on different sides of the law for some time. But there's always been a bit of a spark between us. You could say that we're flirt friends." And then she says, "Well, seeing as how you've slain all my men, and I have no more bullets of my own, I think the two of us ought to have an audience with her. She set you up to take me out so that she can tighten her grip on the city's bullet distribution."
Is she not also a criminal?
Yes, she is. She set Dominick Long up to take out Belle so that she could tighten her grip on the bullet distribution. And now, her bullets are spent, and she hoped that Dominick Long would take out Belle in the process.
I want to say something here. Crime does not solely rely on bullets for a certain type of weapon.
It does in this world. And so the two lovers are reunited. They are bound by bloodlust. Bound by bullets. Long needs her knowledge of the criminal underworld, you see. And she needs his buckets full of bullets.
I thought he was out.
Well, he's almost out. This is big bucket. It's actually more of like a barrel. It's more like a giant barrel full of bullets. Now,
your story is on tent poles. Well, it's not standing up.
Now, the two of them make way for the Red Talon Inn, which is a luxurious front for the Bessie, the Scarlet Widow's criminal assortment.
I imagine flowering scarves,
yes.
Exorbitant headdresses,
yes,
silky robes.
Yeah, a lot of booze flowing between fingers.
And maybe a nice jazz band playing the evening on.
Yeah, now you're catching on. You're really getting the vision that I was going for.
No, that was me installing the vision into your work.
Anyways, they really actually can't get as easily into reach of the Scarlet Inn as they had hoped. Long can't reach Bessie as easily as he reached Belle. See, Bessie is sort of a high society kind of gal. First she needs to believe that the plan worked.
It really sounds like a high society name.
Well, she needs to believe that her plan worked, for example. So Long and Belle need to make it look like Belle has been executed. So she disappears. And now they have the inn that they needed. Bessie believes that she has taken Belle out of the picture.
A problem. Why didn't they figure that out when they, met the first time? When they're already under operation, but when they're, when he kills all of her men, they should have decided that then. Not when they're already doing other stuff, because they would have been walking around together, and surely. The man's got a bucket full of bullets.
Well, no, at this point, Bessie, she set Belle up. She just sent a letter.
What about the police force?
She just sent a letter with the signature of B. Now, she knew that Dominick Long.
That's really descriptive.
Yeah, well, Dominick Long would, of course, assume that it was Belle, his ex-wife. Now,
because he received other letters inscribed with B?
Only someone who knows Dominick Long and knows his heart would know that he would respond to a bucket full of bullets. So, Belle disappears. Belle disappears. Now, meanwhile, Long returns to work. He receives another bucket. Another bucket full of bullets. And another note at the bottom. This time it reads, "My dearest love, Dominick, I long to be with you." Also signed B. Long goes to the Red Talon Inn, where the Scarlet Widow awaits, and he meets her there. And she sits, adorned atop a throne made of bullets. Long salivates at the sight.
Game of Thrones, you could say.
Yeah. Throne
You're
of Swords.
taking from the best, aren't
yes.
you? Yeah.
This is really in the same category of Martin's work.
In the same vein. It's
you and I are
same
close pals.
Pedestal. Yeah, you're kind of writing the same story.
Yeah, well, in a way. Now, when he meets her, she says, "The G-Man with the golden heart, you finally come to
The golden heart. Where does that come from? Why do I think he has a golden heart?
Well, they're flirt friends. Everyone knows Dominick Long has got a...
I don't care how many people have flirted. I think flirting is gross. Why does that give you a golden heart?
He is driven by his passions for women and for bullets.
What you should have said is that it's not gold, but it's brass. The brass of a bullet casing. Yeah. He's got a heart full of it.
Mm. Oh, that's good.
You want to use that as canon?
Yeah, I'm going to retcon my story. The G-Man with the brass heart. You finally come to me.
No, that's dialogue. Compelling.
Yeah. and he says, yes. And she says, that Belle was never good for you. And G. Long says, she wasn't. Sometimes there just ain't enough bullets to go around. And she says, with me, you'll have plenty. But this is where Long actually starts to consider being with Bessie. He now questions what he wants. He questions what he needs, and what he needs right now is a drink. He slams back a shot of whiskey. Perhaps the liquid will speak with his heart in a way his head currently can't.
The liquid will speak with the brass in his heart.
And when Long notices the whiskey is rather strong, too strong, he's been drugged. He blacks out. And when he awakes, he is strung up by the femme fatale. And Bessie says, I've always wanted you, Long, but you've never truly wanted me. I'm sorry, Bessie. I thought we were just flirt friends.
I don't want to hear that term again. I don't want to hear it again.
It's always been her, hasn't it? That vicious dame. And Long says, she may be vicious, but so am I. We just never quite fit. She's a slug that just doesn't fit my chamber.
I'm sorry, I couldn't put that one. I couldn't leave it alone. That is good.
Yes,
he's a slug that just couldn't fit my chamber.
Yeah, they're just not firing at the same level.
Velocity.
Yeah. And Bessie says, well, luckily I hear she's out of the picture now. And Dominick says, not quite. Just then, bullets rip through the room. Now see, Long had given Belle the latest bucket full of bullets, allowing her to rearm herself. And she bursts in and she cuts down Bessie, saving the G-Man. And Long says, I love you, Belle, but I need to get out of this life. I need to sober up.
Sober up. Sober up.
Yeah. And Belle says, I understand. I hope you find lasting love someday. She gives him a kiss on the cheek, and the two part ways.
After having cut down Bessie.
Yes. Now this is where Long quits his job so that he can finally find rest. But something is missing. His detective brain is still active. Without anyone to love, he starts hitting the bottle hard. More than usual. And that's when it clicks.
What part of this is a love triangle? I want to know.
I'll get to that.
You're going to shoehorn it in.
He realizes. With Bessie out of the picture, Belle is actually free to assume control of the bullet supply. It was all a ruse. Belle was the one who sent the bucket. Belle was the one with the original B on the note. She set Long up to assume that she was the original sender of the bucket full of bullets, and he had to think that she was the culprit, so that he could be convinced that she was innocent. And in the end, the vicious dame got what she wanted, and Long has been left in the dark. Long seeks her out for answers, but this time he is the one caught out by Belle on the streets, alone and bulletless. The whole scheme was the only way to drain him of everything in his chambers and in his heart.
In his magazine.
Yeah. I'm sorry about this, Long, she says. Long says, I'm sorry too. You know, I really did care for you, Belle says. Long says, did you? And her voice shakes a bit. She says, yes. Yes. And Long says, then why? Because she was in my way. And I'm afraid your heart just got caught in the crossfire. And Long says, I guess it's true what they say then. Belle says, about what? About love. It kills. The gun shakes in Belle's hands.
I don't like that.
Gunshot fade to black. The end. So you see, the love triangle is that Belle really does Long. She just loves killing more.
It's not so much of a triangle, it's more of a love 90-degree angle. Really, it goes two ways there.
Well, he's at the center of the triangle. In a love triangle, it's not necessarily that the character has to love both of them at the same time. It's just that both love him, and he's sort of caught between his love for the women and the bullets.
More like a love sandwich.
Love with the bottle.
the bottle is the third aspect.
Yes. You can interpret it in multiple ways. Any
additional notes? Any epilogue you want to throw down?
I don't know. I think it wraps up quite cleanly, to be honest.
I'm going to say that that one sort of scraped in on its knees.
What? It's all there. No, we've got the bucket full of bullets. We've got action shootouts. We've got alcoholism. We've got love triangle. You've got a love between a man and his issues. You know, he's sort of stricken with a love for his inner self and the self that he projects onto others. His love for bloodlust.
Could you go into a producer's room and pitch this to a executive?
You know who I bet I could pitch it to? Paul Bishop. I bet he would take it.
He would say, this is my book.
Well, his show is called Take the Money and Run, and that's exactly what I'd be doing.
You take the money and you run with it.
So, a bucket full of bullets.
Well, a bucket full of bullets, but a can short of my story.
Oh, come on. Now let it on me. What did you come up with?
So, to refresh, my rule was that I must feature the origin story of the iconic Bessie and Belle machine guns, sub-machine guns. Now, I titled my book as well, A Bucket Full of Bullets.
Is there anything else we could have titled?
It's a great title. Yeah. Why stray from that?
No,
the work is done for you there. Now, I want you to imagine this book in the most flowery sort of context that you can. Imagine that when you open the page of this book, it smells like cigars.
It smells purple.
It smells like you're getting intertwined into a gangster story you shouldn't be reading. I mean, this is too scandalous, too rocky for anyone to touch. And you're looking into it because you yourself are a detective. Now, this is something that I want to get very intimate about because this is an intimate story.
I'm feeling hot already.
Now, I also asked myself, what was happening during this time period that this story was selected to be in, and the location that this area was in the original taking place in, and that's the Kansas, Texas, states, anywhere between the 1930s and the 1960s. You got so much to do there.
There's a lot going on in Kansas at the time.
So I went and I go, who's the biggest crims? What's the greatest story?
Yeah, who can the G Long go after?
Wow. Or who precipitates the man himself? So, Act 1, we start with the detective Dominick Long. Flipping through an old case file, we get to see his rough edges and his smoky office. But we see he is actually still quite young, So that means he's worked quite hard to get to the position he's in right now, right? He's a young detective.
Sort of an up-and-comer.
Yeah. And a quote rips through his mind as he flips to an image of a 34 Ford Deluxe V8 riddled with bullet holes.
Oh, shit.
And the quote goes, each 6 of us officers had a shotgun and an automatic rifle and pistols. We opened fire with the automatic rifles. They were emptied before the car got even with us. Then we used shotguns. There was smoke coming from the car and it looked like it was on fire. After shooting the shotguns, we emptied the pistols at the car, which had passed us, and ran into a ditch about 50 yards down the road. It almost turned over. We kept shooting at the car even after it stopped. We weren't taking any chances. Quick note, that is a real quote.
Oh, shit.
So, just a bit of historical flavor to what's going on here. So he slams the case shut, and he doesn't want any part of it. He's looking through old case files here. He's a detective that's haunted by history. But in more recent times, there's been a very large bank heist. Yes, it's a debacle, and some notorious gangsters on the loose. The whole department is at war, and tensions are high.
At war? What are they at war over?
Well, they're at war with the gangsters.
Oh,
yes.
I thought at war with each other.
Well, there's an internal war of like, do this, do that, and we have to stop. Like, it's high tension. Yeah. We're at war, so everyone's acting like high strain. No one's kidding around.
Yeah.
He heads out of his office and is quickly jibed at by the old guard. Now, the old guard is the senior detectives. It's this bunch of like guys that they think they know everything, and this bunch of new detectives coming through, and they don't know what's going on.
It's sort of like the Hat Squad.
Yeah, it's the Hat Squad. Yeah, right. So, there are a bunch of pre-war sacks that don't like Long's collar. They don't like the cut of his jib.
No, they wouldn't.
Yeah. Especially 2 particular detectives called Hinter and Alcorn. Now, they're not in the original story, but we see that Long's a bit of an outcast among the more reserved of his peers and the department. Long heads out and he heads to the wharf and meets his old partner, the Big BM.
Oh.
He's out fishing on the docks. Well, you could say that he's a rather fat and slow old man, He's an old sailor type. He prefers hitting the lines out beyond the wharf and doesn't work too hard anymore. But, who's one of the few in the department that respects Long. Long respects him for that. So they get together, but it's important to remember that BM is kind of the when it's a murder, it's always the boyfriend that did it. You know, he always goes for the obvious solution. He doesn't have that
doesn't have
seek
that
all
instinct.
answers. Yeah, he's not an eager detective like Long is. So Long is on the case, and you get to see his rigorous methods. I'm sure he's a real scoper. He's down on his knees. He's looking at things. He's doing detective stuff.
Well,
don't ask me. We're not taking questions.
Well,
we're not taking questions.
I do have one question. As I know, on the horizon is the introduction of the twin Thompsons. But what kind of firepower is he packing before they come into the picture?
Well, he's got a .357 Magnum on his hip. That's the detective special. Now,
see,
that's a guardless revolver. It's quick to pull out. It's quick to fire.
Yeah,
a dangerous weapon. Can put a man down, but it's only got 6 shots. Can't take out an army.
True.
Yes. Now, he is doing this case. He's looking at the last heist. His partner BM is supporting him, is with him, but not really. He's more interested in hitting the docks again, going for a fish. So they end up heading towards a suspect, right? Some sort of criminal.
just some. So they suspect him.
Detective work equals you find someone that you can investigate. Yes,
yeah, they got a lead on someone.
Yeah, they get a lead. Yeah, they get a lead. And they go and they chase him down. He runs off. He was working in a butchery or something. And
well,
he runs off, and they chase him down.
Everyone knows that running is guilty.
And BM says, I'll get him from the other side. And they split up, and then they come around. And then as Long comes around, BM is there, and he pulls the trigger before the guy can talk. Boom! Shot dead.
357.
357 to the dome. So, Long goes back, and the pair are commended for taking out one of the criminals.
Good job putting a tangerine-sized hole in that man's skull.
Well, that's just justice.
That's just good police work.
That's just good police work. But Long is not happy because the chief tells them to both go easy on the case. Don't exert yourself. This is a tricky one. They'll make a mistake after time.
There are plenty of bodies to drop in this case still.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Don't worry about solving it all. But Long wants to hunt down.
He's ambitious.
Yeah, he's ambitious. There's not much we can do until they slip up again. That's that kind of...
Criminals are often slippery.
We know that, yes. We know that from all the books we read. Long leaves the office, and the old guns snipe with him. Good work, kid. They're saying, all these quips. They don't respect the younger generation.
Oh my goodness.
And they're laughing at him, and all of a sudden things get a little bit heated. Threats are exchanged, yes.
Is there any unleathering going on in this confrontation?
Well, the chief steps in right before things get from blowing over.
Oh, good.
And finally expels Long out of the building.
Wow.
Well,
the chief!
But the old guard, they have the respect
got a lot of influence.
Yeah, they got a lot of influence, Who knows? The Hat Squad.
Yeah.
What are you going to do, argue with them?
Dominick Long is about to go vigilante.
It's getting there. So, Long detests the old guard. He suspects some sort of connection between the department and the heist case. I mean, why would they tell him not to investigate it? He's the best detective on the block.
Yeah.
He's the one that is after the case the most.
He's the one putting the holes in the criminals.
Yeah.
And they're slipping away.
I know. And everyone in the department keeps saying, go easy on it. And laughing at him for even trying, So he suspects that something is going on, but he's got no proof. Doesn't have the material evidence. But he just despises the old guard, and he hates the lack of interest the head police seem to show towards solving the case. Now, Act 2. We start with Long reading through an old case file.
Cold case.
Just like in Act 1. And he finds an image of a dead couple riddled with bullets.
Naturally.
I mean, they're just torn up,
It's indistinguishable.
You might recognize some of the bullet holes from the car in the first case file, if you were paying attention.
Yes.
If you are paying attention to the pros. Now, we see a picture of the trunk of a car and another image loaded with ammunition and weapons, including a pair of twin Thompson sub-machine guns.
Oh, boy.
Then another quote just like in the first act, rips through Long's mind. You know, he's recalling this. It's like he's been reading these case files over and over again, and he just keeps going back because he wants to know more. You know, it's a cold case.
Yeah.
The quote reads, "Nearly everyone had begun collecting souvenirs such as shell casings, slivers of glass from the shattered car windows, and bloody pieces of clothing from the garments. One eager man had opened his pocket knife and was reaching to the car to cut off an ear."
Ooh.
Now this is just like, these are quotes from people from the case, from the news stories, you know. And Long slaps the case shut and slams his fist.
He slaps it.
Yeah, he slaps it down and slams his fist. Now, this is something I pulled directly from the old box.
Oh,
right?
yeah. There was a lot of slamming in
yeah,
that book.
Dominick Long was always slamming his fists on the desk and slapping drinks down, and he was a very physical man.
Yes.
He
really had a temper he couldn't control.
Yeah.
Now, guns he couldn't control either.
Yes. Now, usually that finger was on the trigger.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't, it was on the bottle.
Oh, well, yeah.
So he goes home and drinks.
What? He's an alcoholic in your story too?
Yeah,
oh my God.
I mean, that was just pro bono.
Perhaps
right?
the same Dominick Long.
His house is full of case files and images surrounding the department. It's also littered.
He's just got pictures of those Thompsons everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere. It's also littered with bottles. After a good binge, there's an...
I can't believe that we both put it in.
I mean, what's better than like a
That's
drunk
all
detective?
they did in the 50s.
A drunk detective going after a cold case where the department's, you know,
It's on fire with corruption.
Yes, I mean, it's just what you want from a story like this.
The story really did write itself, didn't
it? And after a good binge, there's a knock at the door. It's a reporter named Jasper Pollock.
Oh, shit.
He's stuck in the rain, but Long doesn't want to give him an inch. But he holds up a picture before he can slam the door. It's an image of 2 Thompson submachine guns.
They're haunting him at this point.
Oh, yes. Long rips the picture out of his hands and looks at it closely. On the side of the guns, a name is inscribed. On one is Bessie. On the other is Belle. Jasper tells him he knows who has one. Jasper is a young man, just like Long. He looks around Long's room, and he sees an open case file, and he sees 2 corpses riddled with bullets.
In his apartment?
Yeah, the same one that Long was looking at earlier. In the
a picture of the thing.
Yeah.
I thought you were saying that he looks into his apartment and there's just 2 bodies.
He sees a picture, like the open case file, he sees it, and the 2 corpses, and Long shouts at him to close it and tells him to leave. Get out of here, you reporter dick. Yeah. You know, get out of here. Leave me to my booze. You don't know anything about these twin Thompsons. You don't know where they came from. You don't know what they've been used for. Now, to me, it's always... Weapons can sometimes be very interesting. You cannot simply give a weapon a name.
No.
And have that be interesting.
No.
Which is why in the first story, when you call weapons Bessie and Belle, that is not fucking cool. It's just stupid. But if those weapons have been used for something, if they have a history, that name connects them with that history, then that becomes something more important.
Yes.
You have a sword called Widowmaker.
Oh.
That's not interesting. But if that sword was used to kill...
Widows
or husbands?
Yeah, I guess it would be the husbands they kill.
It would be the husbands, yes. Now, that name has meaning, and that story, that weapon, has meaning. Another heist is happening. Back to action, and Long is the first to arrive at the scene of the crime. The bank is ablaze. He runs inside to try and save a lady that is caught under a desk or something. The lady that Long saves, after carrying the lady out, says that one of the gangsters is still in the bank. They never ran out with the other gangsters. She saw a certain number run in, and not all of them ran out. Police arrive only short after and charge inside. Long tells them that there must still be a man inside the bank, and they prepare to charge in. They hear a gunshot, and they rush towards the door where it came from.
There are 357s out.
357s trained. Yeah. Ready to go. Ready to blast. They burst in, and they find the big BM with a smoking revolver.
Oh, shit.
In front of him is a man laying dead with a submachine gun. Bessie on the side. And BM picks up the submachine gun and pushes it against Long's chest and says, "The Barrow Gang is back."
The Barrow Gang.
The Barrow Gang. Yes. Now, let's just take it.
I'll just take it.
Just take that. Don't ask questions.
I'm
I'm not taking questions.
I don't have any questions. This is
The
very
Barrow
clear
Gang
to me.
is back.
Okay. Now, what are they known for?
The bank heists
Yeah.
back in the earlier
They're
times,
slippery
yeah.
criminals.
Bank heists maybe about 20 years prior. Yeah?
Yeah. They slip in, the money slips out.
Jasper is hanging at a bar where Long is known to frequent.
Mm.
His alcoholism leads a trail of breadcrumbs, really. Trail of bottles.
We always know where to find him.
Yeah. He's always chasing his answers at the bottom of a whiskey glass or something like that, blah, blah, blah. Long sees him enter and sits down next to him. It has been some weeks since the last heist, and Long suspects something is going on at the department, but he is being watched vigorously by everyone else. He's not being allowed to follow cases. He's really being pushed around, Some of this is due to him being the young guy, but a lot of this...
Must be the old guard's influence and his crippling alcoholism.
Yeah, a lot of this is to do with probably more realistic things, like please don't investigate cases while being absolutely off your face. So...
It's mentioned having gun at all, really.
Yeah. Long tells him that he's got his hands on the Thompson from the crime scene. Jasper suggests that maybe it was BM who planted it.
Yes, I was also beginning to suspect him.
He was the only one, but he's still one of the old detectives from the thing. And
they saw gangsters slip in and one didn't slip out.
Yeah. What's going on there?
What is going on there?
I'm just such a good storyteller. Honestly, I amaze myself. I almost don't know the trick that's coming. But Long disagrees and leans in to tell him, I have the authentic. So, not only was this submachine gun that was planted on the body not the real Bessie.
Oh.
Because, for some reason, Long has the authentic version of that rifle.
I see.
He has the real Bessie. Yes?
Where did he get it?
We don't know yet.
Oh.
But he has it. Or he claims
He
to
knows that BM gave him a fake.
Well, or at least that the weapon that BM found
Was a fake.
was a fake.
Okay.
Because he has the authentic. Now, Long and Jasper fire down to Long's house, sort of to prove this claim, and they find it turned over. I mean, the whole house has been ripped through by a bunch of people. The windows are smashed. The files are laying everywhere. Many things have been stolen. Many case files are missing.
Long frantically runs to his booze stash.
Yeah, and all of his whiskey is gone. Drama. And the gun is missing too. Now, Jasper, the reporter, is, obviously, he can't substantiate these claims, and Long is frustrated and annoyed and sober. He claims that the whole department could be corrupt.
They could.
Who knows what's going on?
Someone's trying to squeeze him out.
Yeah. Jasper asks why Long claimed to have the original Bessie in the first place. All of a sudden, it seems like he can't even trust Long,
Yeah, his story doesn't hold up.
You're a drunk young detective. You don't know dick about what's going on. You claim to have this rifle, and I come home to find bottles all over the place and your apartment in a mess.
Yeah, perhaps his apartment was already like that, and the whole destruction of it was just a stage. The man could be out of control.
Long says it was passed down to him from his father's friend, a man that used to work for the Texas State Police Force, a man called Jonathan Lawrence, when Long was just a child. This is his explanation. Some days go by, and Long returns home and picks up a letter signed by Jasper. Records show no Johnny Law at the department, you claim. Yeah.
Johnny Law. Oh my God. Johnny Law.
Obviously.
Yes, Lawrence, yes.
Yeah. Jonathan Lawrence.
I gotta say,
seems like a fake name
that's pretty good.
That he's never picked up on his whole life, apparently. And now he's going, fuck. Like, maybe Johnny Law was never really anyone that could be trusted.
Yeah.
And obviously when he was a child, he can't remember. So he returns to the department, and Long is in a drunken fury. He accuses, he slurs, and the chief is quick to put him out on short-term leave. He's a vigilante! Hey, we got to it! So, Jasper returns to visit Long. They talk at the door, and Jasper tells him his father was killed in a heist by Bonnie and Clyde.
Oh.
Yes. remember
the real Bonnie and Clyde.
The real Bonnie and Clyde, yeah. And this is why Jasper was interested in, these latest heists. They fit the motto, they fit the bill.
Yeah.
And, there's a lot of history, And Jasper has got a job offer in California and tells Long that he's letting it all go. He's letting the whole thing. He's not going to hold any grudge anymore. He's not going to seek revenge for his parents anymore. He's letting the whole thing go. But he does say one thing. When I was first getting into the business of journalism, my elder colleague had a story on the pumpkin shoot. They lined pumpkins up by the drove and shot them off for a Halloween story. One of the shooters was a local state policeman. He spotted a Thompson with the word Belle written on the side.
Ooh.
In my best
It's not bad.
Kansas City accent. Long looks intrigued, and Jasper leaves after giving him a photo taken from their old news story. He looks at the story and sees the image. It's BM holding the gun. Long begins to put it all together. Long skulks out into the rainy alley behind the station and sees BM and some more of the old guard leaving the department. They head to the bar and Long follows his car, but as they head inside, he drives from the bar to the home of BM. Now, I want to point out that this is kind of a metaphor. He's not drinking anymore. He's leaving the bar behind. Yes. He didn't go inside. He didn't go inside the bar to confront in some sort of angry rant. Took a step back, going home. He's following.
Yes, he's sort of leaving behind the crutch that he's been leaning on this whole time.
Yes, now that's real writing. That's just... I'm on another fucking level. Okay. This is real shit. So, now... He breaks into the home of BM, breaks a window, and heads inside. Inside, he finds the real Bessie and the old Belle, the twin Thompsons.
Just waiting for him.
Yeah, they're just both there, and he loads them both and returns to the bar.
He loads them?
Yeah, he loads both of them.
With what?
Ammunition, he finds. I mean,
the drums are there as well?
Yeah, he's got ammunition. You wouldn't keep the guns and not keep ammo.
That's true. I mean, they're inseparable.
So the old guard rocks outside of the bar, laughing and hollering. They're all drunk and having fun. They think they've gotten away with the crime. And Long lumbers out of his car with each Thompson under his arms, and BM and the others look startled, but act calmly. And then Long says, I know my parents weren't heroes, but you did them in, and you're no better than they were.
Oh, shit.
I'm their son, and I want revenge. I am justice. And then he opens fire on the entire team and blows them all away.
What happens to their limbs?
Well, they go flying off in every direction. Arms, legs. I mean, this thing will cut you clean off halfway. Yeah. It just tears through you. I mean, these are flesh shredder bullets. So, Bessie and Belle have been finally used against the detectives that put them away in the first case. Now, Long says that I am their son, right? He says, I am their revenge, I am justice.
Yes.
Well, he's the love child of Bonnie and Clyde. He became a detective. He wanted to put it all away.
What?
He's the love child of Bonnie and Clyde, and he joined the police force to get away from this, history. Does he
know that from the start?
Yeah, he knows that from the start. Yeah, you would pick that up. You would get this sort of clues would be dropped in. Okay. Yeah? Like he's reliving the horror of his parents' death throughout the whole book. How the cops, this old guard, these Kansas state troopers, ambushed them and riddled their car full of bullets blew them all away. Yeah, the quotes. He's always flipping through these old case files.
He's obsessed with the quotes.
Yeah, the Bonnie and Clyde, how they were done in so murderously. They couldn't even have an open casket funeral because they were shot. I think Bonnie and Clyde were, they were absolutely riddled. They didn't stop shooting. And, I put little bits and pieces, and I would put more if I was writing the whole thing out. But the Ford Deluxe V8, that's Bonnie and Clyde's car. The old guard, their names, Hinter and Alcorn, and BM. They're all the troopers that took down Bonnie and Clyde.
And Bessie and Belle?
And Bessie and Belle are a fictionalized, the machine guns of Bonnie and Clyde. So Bonnie had Bessie and Clyde had Belle, and they used them on their crime spree. And the second quote that I had about the cops taking memorabilia, nearly everyone had begun collecting souvenirs such as shell casings, slivers of glass from the shattered car windows, and bloody pieces of clothing from the garments. One eager man had opened his pocket knife and was reaching into the car to cut her off in the ear. Yeah. So when they did this in real life, everyone was like, "Oh, Bonnie and Clyde are dead. We have to take memorabilia,
snatch some shit."
And in my version of the story, they would have taken the guns.
They took the Thompsons.
BM took the Thompsons, yeah. And a sort of twist of what I would do is that BM is a sort of thing where I had the story about BM using it for the pumpkin shoot. Mm-hmm. He used the gun in the pumpkin shoot. Yeah. And this is kind of how Jasper Pollock picks up on the case. But Jasper has a tie to the case because his parents were killed by Bonnie and Clyde. Yeah.
I see, yeah.
And the love child of Bonnie and Clyde, Dominick Long. This is like the real, that's the part that I'm not sure I should have gone into the story.
just ram him in there.
BM gives him as like a cop figure. I would build this into the story in a bigger way.
It sounds like you've just taken the skeleton of something that really happened and smashed Dominick Long in there.
And BM would have gave him the gun and said, "I'm Jonathan Lawrence. Like, Johnny Law is giving you the gun of the police forces, giving you the gun of your parents." Yeah. As a way of going
I see. Very thematic.
Although, now that I think about it, why would you give a young child a submachine gun?
Exactly what I was thinking. Probably what put him on the bottle.
Yeah. Where are my parents, and why do I have a gun?
I'm going to become an alcoholic.
Native outcome from that.
Whiskey will fill the role that my parents left me.
But there you have it. That's how it all intertwines, and that's the outcome. So, and BM gets his just desserts at the end for the brutal. I mean, it's not. Bonnie and Clyde were bad and stuff, but it's also the way they were massacred was kind of also grotesque, and maybe Long was kind of, and he didn't like the current police force's actions.
I feel
they were committing crimes. They were corrupt. They were trying to frame the current things on the Barrow Gang, which is the name of Bonnie and Clyde's gang. So they're trying to frame it on them by using the weapons. They knew they had this thing, so they could try push it up.
I feel like real world events kind of built this story for you.
Yeah,
did a lot of legwork.
As if stories are built on anything else.
The stories are built on coming up with a clever twist.
That is a great twist. That is a great twist. What are you talking about?
What about the bullet supply in the city and all that stuff?
That's ludicrous. That doesn't make any sense.
It makes complete sense.
This is a real story.
It's got Dominick Long shoved in there after the fact.
I mean, I had to shove him into something. Look, you say what you want, but that was fucking awesome.
All right, I will give it to you. I do appreciate the craftiness in which you have inserted things which, can't be taken seriously by anyone, which are twin Thompsons named Bessie and Belle.
But then giving them a real fixture.
Sort of giving them a grounded backstory.
I mean, one of the things was, I was thinking, as I said in the beginning, that this story takes place, right where Bonnie and Clyde were operating in
You did
Texas,
say that.
Kansas, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, wow. I mean, why skip up? I mean, you've already got the twin Thompsons, Bessie and Belle, fucking Bonnie and Clyde. You could have that worked in such a great way.
Yeah.
And I have given the fucking stupid guns a backstory, as you desired they should have. No, I gave them a fucking awesome backstory.
Yeah, I'm satisfied with the implementation of the rule.
I demand satisfaction.
All right. Well, I think it was all around a very good usage of the rules on both sides.
Yeah, well, my side was pretty good. Yeah.
And look, I love triangle going between Dominick Long and his,
Debatable. We'll leave that one to the eggheads.
Yeah, we'll leave it to the viewers. You can decide out there which one of these you think more eagerly satisfied the rule.
I mean, there's an obvious choice. There's a laugh choice. There's like a meme choice.
No, that's not true.
There's a serious choice, and then there's a Brady choice.
Yeah,
you support Brady if you think, he hasn't won one yet, so we'll give him one. We'll give him one.
The serious choice, of course, having 90% of the work done for you by history.
90% of the work done by history.
I mean, you didn't even come up with any original characters.
I mean, Jasper Pollock, Dominick Long.
Those aren't original characters. They're in the original story. The only addition you've made is that Dominick Long was a drunkard. And you might have just poached that after listening to my story.
Oh, no way! That earns him his discredibility.
Yes.
No, look, everything in my book was very calculated.
As mine was as well.
Dominick Long, the love child of Bonnie and Clyde, who were the original owners of those machine guns, which he uses to kill the police officers. What a great... you make a movie about that shit. Yeah, where is it? Come on.
And look, I can imagine the trailer of my story running like this. Someone drops the bucket.
Your movie trailer would be stupid. It would be literally a bucket full of bullets.
Yeah. That is an iconic shot.
How? In what way?
Because it's called a bucket full of bullets, and there is the bucket, and it is full of bullets.
That's not a metaphor. That's actually like
he's slanging.
If your name.
Look, I imagine my story more like a Mandy type. Okay, he gets the bucket full of bullets. He puts the bucket on his shoulder. He starts emptying shells. He tops off the booze every time he, unleashes a drum.
What ideas were you playing on in this story? Well, that was the Bucket Full of Bullets rewrite. There's an obvious choice for a victor here. Well, I'm not going to be surprised to see the results, but, entertain yourselves,
Yeah. Send in your submissions of a Bucket Full of Bullets rewrite, if you please.
Tell us what you wanted to happen differently. If you wanted more excitement and more Bonnie and Clyde stuff.
Or if you wanted more,
stupid stuff.
Well, no, I wouldn't say that. If you wanted more romance infused in your story, that's really what you're going to get out of my house.
It's like, if I infuse romance into your story, it's going to be bad.
I mean, well, what else could I do?
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for listening and supporting the show. We really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to subscribe and join in the conversation with us on one of our platforms. You can find us on Discord, Twitter, and Reddit, and we also stream live on Twitch. You can support the show through Patreon or just by sharing the show with your friends. Thanks!